I think one of the biggest issues and that I had to overcome in my personal experience, and I see other agents think it all the time, is arrogance. Is why do you feel entitled to that listing?
So I got a call a couple of weeks ago from a woman, and she's like, "You don't know me, but I have this guy that you got to meet. He's one of the top new agents in the Scottsdale area, and he's just a great guy." It was almost like my aunt was calling, telling me I had to interview someone. And usually when I get calls like that, it's for someone that sells mid-level marketing. But after I Googled the agent she was talking about, I was like, "Oh, guy's actually doing some serious volume of business." Googled a little more. I saw lots of Google reviews, Googled a little bit more, saw lots of internet updates. And I said, okay, why not? I'll give this guy a shot. So I want to welcome Sammy DeStefano from the Phoenix Scottsdale area to the show. Sammy, we have a lot to talk about today. We're on a realtor podcast. And for the first 5 years of your professional career, you hated realtors because they were arrogant. They tried to haggle you. They didn't understand how the car business worked, and they annoyed you. And you're trying to be the top BMW sales guy. Obviously, the stereotype is that every realtor wants a BMW because they have to show that they're doing well. So how did you go? I just want to start the story with how did you go from hating realtors and being annoyed by them to becoming one yourself? Like you went to the dark side, my friend.
There's one way to put it. Yeah. I I don't know. I didn't hate realtors. There were a lot of types of people that were really difficult to work with. And realtors just seemed to be really consistent in that aspect is, they would come in and their expectations were really just set too far outside of reality. So,
Do you think realtors think that way about their customers? I'm just kidding, because I know the answer.
yeah, let's not get into too much trouble, Matt.
Yeah.
So, no, it would, you'd set an appointment with so many of my clients were really high-end business people that were not real
Mm-hmm.
estate. And when they set an appointment, I mean, they were prompt. The attorneys, the doctors, just business people. And they were all prompt, or they were 5, 10 minutes early, which is what they teach us in business to be. Realtors would show up hours late, not answer the phone call when I called to see if they were still coming, text messages, just ghosting and just disappear. And then when they did show up, they would stay for half of the day haggling because they thought there was a 50% markup on a $20,000 car. So it wasn't enjoyable to work with them. But yeah, a lot of white. We can get into that joke. A lot of white BMW 320i's. It's the cheapest car BMW sells. Um, so and then this is one thing we didn't talk about too. The other reason I would have never left BMW, selling BMWs, financing them and stuff for real estate is because you write down your income when you buy a car on the credit application. None of them were over $70,000, and I was making 120,000. So while
Right.
they were being condescending and telling me, "I know what you do, we're the same person," I just kind of smiled and agreed, because it was a better lifestyle for me professionally. So
So what was
um,
that? So I mean, you're selling BMWs at the age of,
yeah,
by the way, 19. Like you jumped into sales quickly, which I love. I think that's
yeah,
being really great at sales is something that can take you so many places in life. But for you, it took you to real estate eventually. But I mean,
yeah.
you sold over 730 cars. I mean, you're one of the top salespeople. You have a mentor. You're really enjoying sales. How did it go from car sales that you love? I mean, who wouldn't love selling BMWs all day, to real estate sales? Like, what was that? What did that look like? Because I think there's so many people listening who might even still have a full-time job or a part-time job that they're trying to transition out of. And I think hearing your
Yeah.
story might get them firing on all cylinders. Not to have another car pun here.
No, I think okay, so here I'll share something that it was an improper, like an inaccurate belief back then. I don't like to restart. So when I do something, I run a million miles per hour towards it. So if you overwork, then you can catch up with people that have been doing it for years longer than you. And that's what I was taught early. In the car business, the only reason I was selling that many cars is I would work, I mean, every waking hour, right? Like what does a 19-year-old really have to do other than work? Get into trouble. And so like I just lived at the car dealership. at the car dealership with the general manager and a few of the sales managers. I mean, they became my mentors. I told them I want to own this place one day, and they laughed at me. And then after a few years, they're like, okay, well, if you're going to own it, you should know this and this and this. And they started tailoring me towards what I wanted. Why in the world would I leave after 6 years, right? And so the only reason I left was their passion of teaching and grooming me for that, for what I wanted, went away during COVID. And it didn't
Mm.
look like it was coming back. They were, I think they entered scarcity pretty deeply. I think if they were on the show right now, they would say they entered scarcity. Everyone thought car sales was going to go to the internet full time. And we all say we hate salespeople, but to be honest with you, I love a passionate, talented salesperson that knows everything about the product. Like the feeling I get when I'm being sold well, like I'm excited to pay extra. And so I had those clients, that would like tip me and send me gifts on top of selling them a BMW. It was really fun. And getting into real estate, I thought I was really not happy about it because this was starting over for me. It was, what in the world is my goal now? Like, do I want to own a dealership, or am I even able to? And I got into real estate just because I knew I wanted to purchase real estate someday, following Robert Kiyosaki and Dave Ramsey. They both of those are real estate moguls that go about it in different ways. And I thought I might get a better deal if I have a license.
That
That's
makes
the
perfect
only
sense.
reason. Yeah. But
So
once
I mean,
getting in, it's
I
everything
feel
changed.
like I wanna call a couple things out
Please.
because there's commonalities when we interview top producer after top producer. When I hear something time and time again, I want to make sure it sinks in for everyone listening who might only be
Mm,
listening to your episode for the first time.
okay.
So number one, you found a mentor early. For you, it was in the car business, but they mentored you when it came to business and sales. And I think that's absolutely huge. If you were a real estate agent listening or you're in sales and you don't have a clearly defined mentor that you can look
Mhm,
up to and strive to be, you're missing out on something. And I think
mm,
I don't want you to look at like Sammy and say, like, well, he had a mentor because he was 19. You could be 19, you could be 50, you could be 75 years old. It's important to have something that you're going for and someone you can go to figure out like how they bridge that gap. I think that's the number one point, and I hear that all the time. Number two was you had a personal interest in real estate. And it was a one-time goal to get some rental properties and to purchase a home of your own, I'm sure.
yeah.
And you figured having more knowledge would help you do a better job. And that again is something that I hear time and time again. So let's fast forward. So you finally got into real
Yeah.
estate, and you found mentors and coaching that made sense for you quickly. I think you did the Tom Ferry thing.
His dad, Mike Ferry.
You did Mike Ferry.
Yeah.
So you did Mike Ferry, and I know they preach some certain things. What did your first year in real estate look like, coming from car sales with sales experience but no real estate
Yeah.
experience?
They preach only two things at the Mike Ferry organization, which is why I was successful, was cold calling and then door knocking. For
Okay,
anyone,
two of the simplest things in the world.
yeah, simple, not easy. So door knocking, for anyone that doesn't know, we always act like everyone knows what that is. It's driving to a random neighborhood and knocking on random doors, and you don't even know the people's names behind the door, and trying to see if they want to move soon. That's super difficult. I'll be honest, I haven't done a ton of it. Maybe 10%, 15% of my business has been door knocking. 80, 85 has, or not 85, 90 has been cold calling, and it's most of what I do. Um,
Well, I'm really interested in hearing more. So the last probably
yeah,
3 or 4 guests we've had on the show, especially in the Arizona area and really competitive markets like Arizona, California, I
yeah,
hear sphere of influence, sphere of influence, sphere of influence. And having been in the business myself for 13 years, most of my business is sphere of influence. So anytime I hear something new, my ears perk up because it's
yeah.
something that agents listening can try. So talk to me about your cold calling strategy. Who are you
Sure.
cold calling first? What are you saying? And what have the results been?
Okay, so it seems like you and I are very similar with you like kind of the controversial truth, right? I
Yeah.
will say this. Hopefully, it doesn't rub you wrong, because is what I realized when I got into real estate. I think my mentor when I got into real estate, he was a top agent. Top agent at that time, he was selling 25 homes a year. So that was the first mentor I had, and he said, you could cold call, but most of us, it's sphere of influence. What I've come to realize, and what Mike Ferry preaches, and this is the big difference between Mike and Tom, is if you want to sell 25 homes a year, you can actually do it your first year in real estate. You don't have to wait 5 years. There's all these little things. It takes 2 years for most agents to get their first few sales, have a few years of money saved up because you're going to be broke. None of that has to be true. The lazy approach is to just be in something and have everyone know what you do for a few years, and they will slowly start giving you a chance to do business with them. But cold calling is speeding up the timetable. And so I didn't want to wait, And so I spent 5, 6 hours a day cold calling because that was less hours a day that I was working than the car business. Car business, I was working 10 or 11 hours. So 5 or 6 hours, I mean, most 40-hour a week people are at their office for 7 or 8. So I was actually part-time. You can call me a part-time agent. So I was cold calling for 5 or 6 hours a day as a part-time agent. And there's a few different scripts, but here's what I'll say. For anybody that's kind of scared of cold calling, because I was terrified, and I still don't like it. There's easier scripts, medium scripts, and hard scripts. The hard script is what I built my business off of. It was calling expired and canceled and for sale by owner people. They do need your help. They just don't know they need your help. And it's hard convincing someone of something that they think they already know. Which brings us back to the realtors buying BMWs, right? It's very difficult to change a belief system. So that's the hardest script you can start on. If you're wanting to dip your toe in, and you're going to be at my level within 2 years, 3 years, if you start on the easy scripts and they still bring business, it's do your job as a realtor and then call people that you don't know and tell them that you just did your job as a realtor. So when you do have a sale and you help someone buy a house or sell a house, it's very cheap. You can go to mojo.com, redx.com. $50, $60 a month will get you unlimited parameters on a map where you can drag and drop, lines and streets, and then just click give me the phone numbers, and it gives you all the names and phone numbers for free. Not for free, you just paid for it. But you call those people and you just simply say, hey, this is Sammy with Sotheby's. I'm not sure if you know David and Jordan, but they just sold their house. They hired me a few weeks ago. We got this all finished. I want to let you know they're moving out by the end of the month. And look, and we've been talking to a lot of neighbors because we find that when someone hires us to sell a property, they're not the only one in the neighborhood that has plans like that coming up. So let me ask you, do you already have plans of making a move or even buying a property? And that's different than the do you want to sell? Because do you want to sell is kind of disrespectful, right? You called me out of the blue, you don't know who I am. And if what you're really asking is for a paycheck.
You're saying like, hey, will you give me $25,000?
Yeah, will you give me a commission, please? Right? I was great. I did it for the neighbor. But if you change it to, I know you already have plans. What plans are coming up? And I'm happy to connect you with my clients. And all I'm really wanting is to interview for the job of helping you get those plans done.
I love that.
So I think one of the biggest issues and that I had to overcome in my personal experience, and I see other agents make it all the time, is arrogance. Is why do you feel entitled to that listing? Why do you feel entitled to your friend or your mom hiring you for real estate? Just because you're family? Well, what if you're not good? So everything else they do, they interview and they make a choice in life. When you buy a car, you interview 2 or 3 dealerships, or you look at 2 or 3 cars, you pick one. Why would you just go with the first one with a bigger purchase? And that was a restructuring I came to on my own, or maybe alongside my coaches. Maybe they helped me, like top producing agents helped me change the mindset from like entitlement to this is called normal. And then prompt me with the next question to keep me on track.
Interesting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is so interesting to me because what you did with cold calling was really finding an opportunity to call someone about something important. So I think we have to dissect cold calling, because when most people think of it, the reason they think it sucks is because they don't know what to say and they don't have the confidence to make that phone call because they truly don't have anything important to say. We know that every time a house sells, all the neighbors want to know what it's sold for. So you basically are using a public record transaction as ammunition and a reason to call. So now you have a topic, you have a list of people, and you can do it on a consistent basis. Now you're doing it to people who you've sold the house and you're calling all the neighbors. If I'm a new agent out there right now,
Yeah.
I'm looking for every listing in an area that I'm farming, and I'm calling the nearest 50 to 100 neighbors to let them know it just hit the market, it just went pending, it just
Yeah.
sold, there's an open house. There's 400 reasons you could make that phone call, and then you're offering, hey, if you want to know what your home would sell for, I just kind of need to know like what updates you've done. You're giving them a slightly creative reason to keep that conversation going with you, other than
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm a realtor, I really need a paycheck, right? Like that's what we're
Right.
trying to avoid here. And like you now have something where every single time you close a deal, you have 50 to 100 calls to make, and you now have numbers established of what your likely return on that investment is going to be. And that fuels you to do even more of those phone calls. Like you've kind of
Yeah.
just put the whole thing together, which I love hearing.
Yeah.
What else? So you're doing, I mean,
Well,
you're doing well over
let's
$25 million in your fifth year. Like how,
yeah.
what else is going into this?
So let's just keep going deeper. No one goes
Yeah,
deep, right? And you said like if we were talking about buying
let's
internet leads,
go.
we probably wouldn't be friends, right? And I agree. So when you buy an internet lead, they send you the name and the phone number, right? And for most agents, if you're brand new, what is an internet lead? What does it cost? Okay, it's a stranger that you have to call. Supposedly, they want to sell a house or they want to buy a house. And
Right.
you're calling a person that you've never spoken with and they don't even know you're calling. Do you know what I call that? That's a cold call,
Cold call.
right? But the difference is you just paid $20 to $100 for one number, and I'm paying $50 for 10,000 numbers. So I love the simplicity because we all think this is really complicated, but it's not. Mike Ferry simplifies it, and I'll give him credit for this statement. He says there's two groups of people that, as an agent, that you're probably going to get business from. First is the group of people that know you and you know them, and the second group is people that you don't know. So in the world, tell me which one of those groups is bigger,
They
right?
don't
And
know.
so they don't know, and you have billions of people, and so when you're going to start a new career as an agent or as a salesperson selling anything, insurance or cars or anything, you have that option. Talk to people I know or talk to people I don't know. And if you're going to build a business off of one, I'm just going to say it like this, one business is going to be smaller because
Hmm.
it's the smaller group of people. And so when I'm calling the neighbors, let's keep writing with the easy script. I've evolved it. And so, the Mike Ferry script is free and it's on Google. You can download it. And basically, just curious, when are you planning on moving? How long you been in the area? How'd you choose this area? It's a bunch of rapport questions. And then at the end, it's, well, when you sell the house, where do you think you'll move next? Perfect. And when would that be? And they'll actually just answer it. If you've gotten them to answer everything else, they're kind of in that pattern of answering. And then that's a lead because you know when they need your help. It could be a year, could be 4 years. They told you the truth, could be 2 months. However, I wasn't really content with that. And I was like, I think we can have a more intelligent conversation, which Mike Ferry knows is going to happen. He's not saying you shouldn't ask more questions. He's getting you started. So once you get comfortable with that script, what I do now is now when I get hired to list and sell a house, which predominantly that's my business, I call the entire neighborhood. I'll call about 900, maybe 1,000 people. Doesn't mean everyone's going to pick up. And I'm going to have conversations with them. And out of that group, there might be 60 to 100 people that really appreciated that I called. And they had interest in what I was telling them. And they told me when they're going to move, maybe. Now I trash the rest of the people. I just let them fall out of my follow-up schedule, and I keep those 60 to 100. I only want to talk to people that like talking to me. And then as soon as it gets under contract, I call 60 to 100 people and I tell them, hey, I'm the agent that told you I got interviewed and hired for that job. Just wanted to let you know I did the job. How powerful is that? Like,
It's
first
huge.
off, it's an agent that called me back a second time. They talk about it, we never call anyone back. And then when we go under inspection, I call them at the end of the inspection and check with your local state or your clients what you're allowed to say or not. I do that. I ask my clients permission to do this. But I call them and I say, hey, it's that agent that just won't stop calling you. And they're laughing by this point. They're like, hey, Sammy, hey, we just finished the inspection. You know how this goes. You bought houses before, right, Matt? Yeah. Okay, they asked for $20,000, and we got it down to just fixing a few items. And I was so excited about that news that I'm calling you and the 60 other people that really appreciate that I call them in the area to update them. And I'll tell them that. Like, stop acting like you're not a salesperson. You are.
Right, you are.
Tell them you're talking to everyone. You're not special. You're one of many. And then the appraisal. And I call back and I say, hey, it's that crazy agent that won't stop calling you with Sotheby's. And hey, Sammy. Hey, this call actually, a lot of people like you like this call more than the other calls I do make because this actually is where you get affected. And it's a little buzzword. They're like, well,
And now they're
what's
like
happening?
really tuned in. They're like on your every breath.
Yeah, they're listening and they're like, wait, what's happening to me? Well, the appraisal came in and they're like, yeah. And you build the suspense, you have fun, like playful confidence. I'm like, congrats, your house is going up. Big surprise, right? It's worth more. And it appraised at this point, and we're going to be closing at this point, and you're probably going to get, well, hopefully, I think they're nice people, but we can't choose our neighbors. You don't know who they're going to be. They move in on the 17th. By the way, is there anybody that you know that could use my level of service that is already planning on making a move or buying a house? And I actually take that line and I put it on the end of every call, and they recognize it. It's okay to be repetitive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're doing your job, and they're like, holy shit, this agent does this every time, and then they do what you did, Matt. Well, he must be selling one house a year if he's got this much time on his hands. And they see that I'm selling a ton of houses and lots of reviews, and people don't leave 5-star reviews like guy was great. I ask them, give me the story, give me the juice, because people like you interview me through my reviews. They want to know the story. And so it's just all these things. It's a collaboration.
Well, a couple of things I really like here. So I've
Yeah,
often said that realtors are going to eventually be the end of the real estate industry, right?
I think
Because
so.
bad realtors post so much on social media about how easy it is to be a realtor that
Yeah.
really that's why there's a lot of like question out there in the market right now on the value that we offer.
Yeah.
But a great realtor can can tell the entire story, the beginning, the middle, which is usually the climax, the drama, the whatever, and the end, and explain
Right.
like how you using your personal skill set got that buyer or seller past the hard part and to the promised land at the end where like they got the end result they wanted. And
Yeah.
so few salespeople are able to tell that story or are able to even ask their clients to be able to leave a review that tells that story. Like, oh,
Mm.
Sammy's a great realtor. That means nothing to me. I want to know what specifically you did to get that property sold. I want to
Right.
know, and I want to know like what the problem was that you overcame. Like that's the drama. Like that's why people tune into selling whatever cities on Netflix today,
I don't
right?
watch
Like
them
most
either,
of
but
it's
yeah, I know they're
yeah,
out there. Yeah.
my wife watches it too, and sometimes I'm
It'll
like,
make me
oh,
mad because it's going to look very
yeah,
easy.
like this isn't what I do all day. But it's just so interesting that so few people show the full drama of the transaction and all the
Mm.
things that a great real estate team, like lending, mortgage, lending, real estate, title, insurance, like appraiser, inspector, everyone has to really work together to overcome
Mm.
some stuff. And that's the part of the story that needs to be told more often. But you know, you're able to turn with what you're doing, you're able to really fill your entire calendar with activities around each transaction that give you a confident place to call from that also show your clients that you're the hardest working guy in town.
Right.
So, what else is there? So, we got the cold calling. I feel like I now have
Yeah.
3 more scripts I can use for cold calling. Where
Yeah.
else is your business coming from? And I know, you know, you're super listing heavy.
Hmm.
Something like 20 to 30 listings alone per year, which is pretty epic. And by the way, you did that not
Thanks.
only in the last year, but you did that your first year, which really shows people that
Yeah.
this is possible.
Yeah.
So what else is out there? What are some of your other like secret sauces or tactics that have helped you to not be that realtor
Mm.
who's making 70 grand and buying the lowest end BMW? No
This
offense
is.
if you have a 320i, but
I actually no. I actually just bought an X4 a few months ago. For just so you guys know, cars don't mean anything. They're not attached. I've taken $1.4 million listings with an old Hyundai Sonata out front. For the first 4 years, 4.5 years of my real estate career, I drove a 2015 Hyundai Sonata. It's unfaded
okay,
because it's 120 degrees out here. Right. So
yeah,
now I drive an X4 BMW, and you know, so I don't think it really matters. I bought it because I like driving it. I will say, when I was getting ready to come on the podcast this morning, I was in the office and I kind of had this thought where there's there's so many. When I was learning real estate, the very first thought, I remember this like it was yesterday, very first thought I had was, if there's so many realtors and I want more listings, and I'm going to be taking it from someone, right? Because if I don't take the listing, they would. So I have to be better than them. I thought I have to come up with something that just is more efficient or performs better. Like I have to be a better agent. And then clients would always, like, the objection I always got, and I still get today, and everyone gets, is, all you guys are the same. You all do the same thing. I disagree. We all should be doing the same thing. You're right. It's not that complicated to sell a property. It's not. You know, my uncle's a captain for Southwest. He doesn't fly 95% of the time. He doesn't fly. It's an autopilot button, and that's what real estate is. It's an autopilot button. We do have the title company that handles things. We do have the lender that helps out. I've got a full-time assistant that does my paperwork. But that 5% of the time that, like, something goes wrong and he has to take the autopilot button off, everyone in that plane is not talking about how he's overpaid. They're not even,
Mhm.
they don't even know what they're paid. They're paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, but they don't even know what they're paid. And so I realized you don't have to be the best agent. You don't have to change the system. Plenty of companies out there, right? This new revolutionary system. It was just on Forbes last week, and we're changing how real estate's sold. You don't need that either. All you need to do is do the things that you probably should be doing. So, like, when the client says you all do the same thing, I understand how you got to that thought, because we should be. But so many agents, like even myself in the beginning, I was taking on too much business, so I didn't take your calls. I wonder how many calls from buyers that wanted to buy my listings I didn't answer. Now, they might show up anyways, they might send an offer anyways, but I'm making it, that's negligence, right? Is like, did I miss out on an offer that was $5,000 higher? So
Right.
what I'm doing now is I'm delegating, and I'm kind of resting in the truth that we are salespeople. And once you get to that point, then you can just say, I just want to be super friendly. If you like, once we get to know each other a little better, Matt, is like, I'm super playfully confident. So it's blown my mind what I can get away with saying to clients. And then when you show up and you hear me and my client going back and forth, whether she's 84 or 18, like, the stuff I'm saying is edgy, but they absolutely love me because, like, I've already established the trust and everything else. They know I'm there for them, and they're able to say edgy stuff back, right? So now it's like a real friendship instead of some realtor. So yeah,
It's
we're
really
getting into,
interesting
like,
because
theory in real estate.
you mentioned like two kind of different things there. You
Yeah,
mentioned number one, the idea that what I wrote down is not what you said. I wrote F being patient. Like screw
yeah,
being patient. Like
yeah.
we don't need to be patient. Like stop waiting for business to come to you and go out there and figure out a way to get it. And I think
Hmm.
that is the number one reason why most agents don't have the level of business that they want. And number two, you really harped on the fact that we need to embrace the fact that we are actually salespeople. That is what
Oh
we're
yeah.
here for.
Yeah.
Because I talk to too many people who say, like, you know, I'm really not salesy, or I'm trying not to be salesy. Why? Like, you're a salesperson. You make money when you sell shit. That is how
Yeah.
it works. I just spit into my microphone. That's how passionate I am about that
I
thought that you
love
just
this.
gave me. But like,
Yeah.
if you can't embrace those two items, you might get lucky and you might get a couple deals a year, and that's awesome. Making a couple
Yeah.
$1,000s a couple times a year,
Sure.
amazing. But
Yeah.
then you're in that category of like 3 million agents that made no money last year, that truly, when you worked with a client, you did your client a disservice because you didn't offer them any extra opportunities. And in a hard situation where that autopilot went off, you were not
Right.
able to get them to the finish line and they had to switch. I
Yeah.
just worked with a realtor. I work in real estate every day. I was selling a property out of state, hired an amazing realtor. And I did, just like any consumer, I had that thought, oh my gosh, I'm about to give someone $20,000 to $30,000 in commission for putting my property on the internet and then hoping and
Yeah.
praying that a buyer comes. And I had that thought, those
Yeah.
intrusive thoughts. But then guess what happened? A hurricane is about to hit the property 2 days before closing. And my realtor is calling me. He's like, this is what we're doing. We're moving closing up by 9 hours. We're putting
Yep.
sandbags down at the house. We got all of this stuff. Okay, we talked to the other agent. We talked to the city. We're going to be good. Okay, closing at 9. I'm sending a mobile notary to you by 10 a.m. Can you sign? Okay, cool. The money is verified in your
That's
account
a
by 5
great
o'clock
agent.
before the hurricane
Yeah.
hit. And I'm like, holy crap. I am so glad that I didn't let my self-intrusive thought of $30,000 stop me from selling my $650,000 house.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
are you kidding me? Who cares about the commission? I almost had a hurricane ruin my life, but I avoided that, thankfully.
Well, and let's talk about that. I mean, you've got real value, of course. Like that's a very weird exception, one-off situation. You're never going to go through again, maybe.
I also just
But
dated this episode.
yeah, you did.
Yeah.
It's like a COVID episode, like
Yes.
Hurricane Helen. I will say, like on the sales side of things, because I know you're not directly.
Yeah.
You might have been in the past, but like when you're directly the salesperson and you're aggressive and playfully confident. When you're playfully confident, you get away with things you really should not be getting away with. Like they're not illegal or gray area, but you can just do more. You can get the other agent to share things like personal details that they really should not be sharing about their client that you can turn around and use. 20 or $30,000, especially in that price point, is so easy for me to move.
Right.
Like we can increase it in the price. You have to be tactful. It's not just a straight counter, but it's a really good conversation, connecting a few dots. And between that and the inspection, you're 30,000 up, right? And then
Yeah.
you just washed out all the expenses. And not every agent does that. I know that. Like many of my friends in real estate, when they get the first offer, they're like, you should take it because they're so excited to like get the deal done and get paid. But when I'm doing 30 deals a year, honestly, I'm not really focused. I don't see just so you know, I don't see my income until quarterly reviews. Because if I was looking at it each time and it's processed by the broker and my assistant and it hits the account, but it's a business account, I'm not buying toys out of that account. It's a business. If I looked at each deal, then that would slow me down because you would see the numbers and you'd say, oh, I don't have to really do anything. I'll take a few weeks off, but you really can't because you have business expenses, you have salaries you're paying if you're at this level. And so it's very dangerous to look at the money.
Well, and
So
also looking at the money really forces you to change the things you're doing in the day to day, which you shouldn't be changing. Like you have your systems. I'm sure you have a time block. I'm sure you're regimented. And if you start looking at that day to day, you start making decisions to alter your financial picture in the short term. And almost every time I've ever made a decision to alter my financial well being in the short term, it's been the wrong decision, right?
yeah.
Like I'm listening to a podcast and it's telling me that I need to buy or sell a certain stock. If I do it, I lose. I just know that to be true now. But if I just hold the course, like every long-term investment I've ever made has been great. Every short-term one has pretty much been terrible. So
Yeah.
I think real estate agents need to remember that their business is a business,
Yep.
and they need to make long-term planning decisions, and they need to do short-term marketing. It's short-term marketing and long-term planning is the backbone of a successful realtor's business. Now, Sammy,
Amen.
you are someone that I want to work with. Like the next time I'm in Arizona, I want to meet up with you. But
Absolutely.
if I'm a real estate agent somewhere around the country and I want to work with the playfully confident, I'm doing like a smirk right now for anyone listening. If I want to work with a playfully confident realtor in the Phoenix Scottsdale area who I can have some fun with, but who also is going to be a ruthless negotiator for me, how would someone get a hold of you?
Yeah. Well, you could just call me or text me. The phone number is 919-454-6482. And then I joke with people that, the few people that do not hire me, right? That are interviewing multiple agents, and I say, who's the lucky agent? And they're like, well, that's a secret. I really don't feel good about saying that. We're the least private people in the world, guys. Once you embrace that you're a salesperson, there's nothing to hide. So if you plug my name into Google, 30 different websites dissect me, and you can see how I do business and the one bad review so far, the one bad review, and all of this stuff, and you can see exactly who you're going to work with. I would say this: in the case that you have someone that that's moving to or leaving Arizona, or even if you have family and friends out here, think about that. If they have no plans of moving, why should we connect? Because real estate's so spontaneous. I'll just say I love the challenge. Because I love people. If you're playfully confident, then that grouchy old Vietnam veteran client that every realtor's worst nightmare and they hate working with them. I love that. It reminds me of my dad, right? He's overly expressive. Like each person is such a challenge. And so, yeah, we'll get it closed. We'll get you paid. But when you refer a client, make sure it's going to close. You know, that's
Yeah,
how you're
I
choosing
think
which
that's another
agent.
great point. I know it's like I half ended the episode and now you're giving us more great advice, but when you
Yeah.
make that referral, you're getting paid not to like send a fucking email. You're
No.
getting paid to make sure that it's a quality referral, that you're hyping up the other person, and that
Mm-hmm.
you've done your research on that agent ahead of time, which listening to this podcast would qualify as research. And
Yep.
that then you're checking in with that friend or client constantly to see how they're doing. Like I'm
Yes.
still involved in the process until
That's
the
a big
moment it
one.
closes and then afterwards for the party, because I want to make sure that my referral is good and that I can refer that person again in the future. It's assuring your own paycheck, but also it's keeping that client coming back to you for the referral next time and not to the new person.
This is a big, okay, now I have to extend it with one more
Please,
thing.
let's
Your
go.
permission? Okay, so probably the most profitable thing I've learned from coaching over 5 years, right, is it's so simple, but I have client reviews Thursdays. So today is Thursday. So Thursday between 12 and 5, all of my clients, whether they're buyers that are planning on coming in and buying a home, or they're sellers that are on the market or under contract, are getting called. And the call is, hey, Matt, do you have a quick second for an update for your Thursday update call? And I brand it, and they're like, yeah, what's up? It doesn't have to be like scientific in-depth market advice. It just has to, hey, we've gotten some really great calls on your property this week. Obviously, you know that Monday we had that showing. I've reached out 3 times, haven't had any feedback, but man, right when I get it, you're going to hear about it. And I guess that's all I had for our Thursday update call. Do you have any questions for me? Go, no, I appreciate you touching base. And that was a call, by the way, if you don't have any update. Think about it. I didn't tell them anything. There was really
Mm-hmm.
no update. They know people might be calling. And then for my people that I refer, anybody that refers me a client, this is going to be a different experience, is on that list. So every Thursday, 12 to 5, it's not a text, it's not an email that you're going to spam. It's a call. Hey, spoke with Jessica. She's planning on, landing here on the 17th. We got her lined up for this. She's already pre-qualified. One of the buyers I'm working with right now that's referred, I just got her $7 an hour more at a better job because our client was the hiring manager there, right? Like, and it literally bumped her approval by a little bit. But like, you as the agent are getting called by me every 7 days with an update, so you know this thing's going to close compared to your
You
client
stole me. I
reaching
mean,
out and
if
saying, I've never
I'm
heard
working with someone in another state, I feel like I just want to refer them to you first because they're going to get handled better.
Thank you. No,
You
no,
just
then,
taught
and
everyone
honestly,
how to make the perfect referral, and I love that.
that's why a lot of people like you work with me, right? It's like, I wasn't like this year one, but you
I
grow.
love that. It's through training, it's through mentorship, it's through coaching.
Yep.
So, guys, I have to remind everyone listening, in order for me to find great people like this, like Sammy's assistant, Jen, messaged me. I don't get people like this on the show unless you guys all drop what you're doing right now, unless you're in the car, and leave a review for the podcast. That
Mm.
helps us reach more and more people around the country. We've still never talked to an agent in Alaska. I still haven't talked to someone, I believe, in Vermont. Like, I need a
There you
couple
go.
guests in some key areas. So, Sammy, dude, thank you so much for the show. This has been an awesome pod. And
Yeah,
everyone, thanks for listening.
I appreciate you having me.